Let me start off with a confession. I was an awkward sixth grader. Now, some of you can probably relate. Some of you may still be there right now. Here's what it meant for me. You see, when it came to girls, I was starting to like girls, but I didn't want to talk to them because I didn't want anybody to make fun of me for liking girls. I know, weird. There was this band called New Kids on the Block, and I loved their music, but I couldn't listen to them or there'd be no chance of me being popular in 8th grade, so I had to listen to them sort of in the closet. And then there was sort of the big deal, the big thing. I wanted to wear the cool kid clothes. Unfortunately, my mom and dad still picked out and bought my clothes for me. Mesh shirts, spandex shorts, always look good on a chubby, I mean husky, 6th grade boy. Said no one ever. And even though I was awkward, I still had this friend who stuck by me. We were always together. He was always at my house. We would go on vacation together. Wherever I went, he went. And you ladies, you would have totally crushed over my friend. He had brown curly hair, big blue eyes, and he wore football jerseys, and so he was sort of tough. But then again, he was a complete softie. He loved hugs. And I remember whenever there was a storm, we would cuddle. And I get it. That could be gross. But if you looked at the box, that's what he was made for. You see, my friend was a doll. Now I get it. Jeremy, you had a doll? Yeah, I had a doll. Hand over my man card. There you go. Now, before you start going, Jeremy's lame, let's do a little bit of survey. How many of you, by raising your hands, had a doll, a teddy bear, a blanket that you carried around? Come on, raise your hand. Okay, good. Ladies, let me talk specifically to you. How many of you not only had a doll, but you named your doll? You talked to your doll, and you think guys who have dolls are awesome. See? Look at all those hands up in the air right now. But here's the reality. A doll, even though it may look like a friend, it may seem like a friend, it may play the part of a friend. In the end, it's not really a friend. Why not? It's not real. It can't care for you. And for some of you right now, you have friends who seem like a friend, they look like a friend, they act like a friend, but if you were to really search and really look at them, they are not a real friend. And if I were one of those friends, this is what I would say to you. I want this relationship, this friendship to be all about me. I don't really care about you. Said no friend ever. If you missed week 1, we are in a series called Said No Friend Ever, and we are looking at things that our friends say, just not with their words. In week 1, we saw that our friends will never leave us the same. They will either make us better or make us worse. And God knew that that would be the case. And that's why He loaded the Bible full of wisdom and advice about friendship. He said this, walk with the wise and become wise. Associate with fools and get in trouble. So what does this wise friend, or what does a true friend look like? We want you to tell us. We're going to give you 60 seconds because, as we all know, you know what is good. You know what good music is. You know what good food is. You know what a good style of clothes is. But can you tell us what makes a good friend? 60 seconds, go. we asked you to write down what you thought a true friend looked like. Now I'm going to ask one of my friends, Vince Parker, to tell us what he thinks a true friend looks like. What do you think, Vince?
Well, I tell you what, I think there's about 3 things that make a truly good friend. One, someone will be honest with you. I think the second one is someone's going to be there for you, kind of when the chips are down, when you need someone in your life. I think the third thing is going to be someone that's fun to be around. I mean, you can have a great friend that's there for you and honest with you, but they're not fun to be around. Well, you know, you don't want to be around them. So I think there's 3 things right there that make a good friend.
Great answer. Thanks for being a true friend, Vince. Now, it would be easy to tell you to take that list and go find those kinds of friends. But the reality is we don't find our friends. We don't pick our friends. We gravitate towards our friends. What do I mean by that? We go into environments. And in these environments, we run into people. Like, I have class, he has this class. I work there, he works there. I go to this church, he goes to this church. And we just sort of connect.
Just sort of clicks.
And we like being around each other. There's this chemistry. And then we discover that there is some common interest. And we realize that we both like basketball.
We both like music.
We both like Westerns.
We both like playing games.
And that is where most of our relationships begin. It starts in a common place, it leads to a common interest, and it ends up with this: we enjoy being around each other, a chemistry. The next step is something called acceptance. As we hang out, I realize you accept me, so I'm going to accept you. You like me, so I'm going to like you. You scratch my back, so I'm going to scratch your back. And we both quickly realize that we can be who we are. We can be the real us when we're around each other. The more that we are around them, the more accepted that we feel. And the more accepted that we feel, the more that we want to be around them. And the more that we are around them, the more that they influence the direction and the quality of our life. I see this concept in one of my favorite TV shows, The Voice. If you've never seen The Voice, they have these blind auditions where contestants will walk onto the stage and they will perform. But the twist is, the judges have their backs to them and they cannot see what they look like. All they can hear is their voice. And what the contestant wants more than anything else is for the judges, or all the judges, to turn around. Because if they do, they go on to the competition. They are accepted. They get to be on the team. And for a lot of us, that's how we treat our friendships. We perform. We do the right things, we say the right things, we try to wear the right clothes. We even do things that we know we shouldn't do to get people to accept us. We want people to turn around and to say, hey, I want you on my team. You see, acceptance is not enough to keep the relationship together. There has to be something more. And that more is called mutual concern. And what that is I care for you, you care for me. In fact, I care for you more than I care for the friendship. I have your best interest in mind, and you have my best interest in mind, no matter what. I'd put it to you this way. Friends who care, share. I'll repeat that. A friend who cares, shares. Now, I get that we all share. We share pictures, we share posts, we share tweets, all those things, and those are great. But do we share the things that matter the most? Do we share our struggles? Do we share our joys? Do we share the spotlight that we have? Do we share what matters the most? And one thing that ladies like for you to share with them are flowers. So what kind of flowers should you give them? That's our experiment today. If you were looking at these two options, you would say, both seem like good options. And you could really make the decision based on color. I mean, they're both flowers, they both have stems, they're both in vases, and they're both in water. But if you got really close, there's a difference between these two. You see, this one here is fake. This one here is real. And even though this one's never gonna go bad, it's never gonna be the real thing. It has no smell. It has no life. Whereas this one here, yeah, you know what? This one can be killed. But this one here is what the ladies want because it is real. In our friendships, what do we want? Do we want something that looks like the real thing, or do we want what is actually real? For the next couple minutes, I want to look at the story of a guy named Jonathan who shared what mattered the most. His name was Jonathan, and Jonathan was next in line to become the king of Israel. He knew it, his parents knew it, everyone in Israel knew it. But then one day, a new guy came into the palace, and the guy's name was David. And word on the street was that instead of Jonathan, that David would become the next king. Now, how do we respond to that? Think about it. If I think I'm going to get the spot on the basketball team and somebody else gets it, well, how do you respond? You get mad. Or if somebody else gets this chair and band that you thought you were going to get, what do? Or your friends are all going to the movies, or maybe they're all going to the dance and they all ride together and you don't get the invite. How do you feel? Or maybe it's you look at Facebook and there's this other kid who's getting all the likes and all the love and nobody's even taking a look at your page. That's where Jonathan is at. But instead of getting upset, listen to what Samuel says happened in the story. After David had finished talking with Saul, he met Jonathan, the king's son. And there was an immediate bond between them, for Jonathan loved David. And Jonathan made a solemn pact with David because he loved him as he loved himself. Jonathan sealed the pact by taking off his robe and giving it to David, together with his tunic, sword, bow, and belt. So basically, Jonathan just said, okay, David, what matters most to me, to my family, to this country is me becoming the next king, but let me go ahead and just give this to you instead. And Jonathan would go on to make a pact with David. He would say, I hope that you destroy every enemy that you face. And in this pact, he said, I need you to take care of my family in case something should happen to me. Now, why would he do that? Because friends who care, share. And I bet if I were to do a survey and say, hey, raise your hand if you would want a friend like Jonathan in your life, I bet most of us would raise our hand and say, yeah, sign me up. But let me ask another question. How many of you are that kind of friend? You see, I think too many times we spend all our time searching for that kind of friend instead of being that kind of friend. And what if instead of being the king, we made our job to make others feel like the king? I love the way that Paul put it in Philippians. Here's what he said. Don't be selfish. Don't try to impress others. Be humble, thinking of others as better than yourself. Don't look out only for your own interest, but take an interest in others too. What is this verse saying? It says, don't be selfish. Make other people the main part of the story. Let them be the king. So let me sort of take all that and put it together in one big statement. Imagine the most important person in your life were to walk through the door right now. And I'm not talking about your mom or your dad. I'm talking about an athlete, a movie star, a musician, a comedian, whoever it is you look up to. And if they walked through and said, hey, can you help me with something? Would you help them? Of course you would. For me, if Kevin Durant walked in right now, I would be speechless. And if Kevin Durant said, hey, can you help me out with this? Guess what? Whatever it is he needed help with, I would help him with. If Kevin Durant were to call me, I would pick up no matter what. I wouldn't let it go to voicemail and then text him. If Kevin Durant called and said, let's go to the movies, even if I was tired, guess where I would be that night? The movies. What would happen if we would treat our friends or our closest friends the way we would treat that person? Let's go back to the story of David and Jonathan. Just a few chapters after they make this pact, Jonathan dies in a battle and David becomes the king. And David would have a son named Solomon who would become one of the wisest people to ever live. And he would write many wise, what we call proverbs or wise sayings. And each meal, Solomon would sit at the table with one of Jonathan's sons because David had made a pact. And I love the things that Solomon said about friendship. He said this, there are friends who destroy each other, but a real friend sticks closer than a brother. He would also say a friend is always loyal and a brother is born to help in time of need. I believe these are the things that Solomon learned from his dad and his dad's best friend, Jonathan. Because friends who care, share.